Okay, welcome everyone to this 100 Days of No Code Expert AMA. We've got Vipul from Softools to show us around this no code platform that we're really excited to hear more about. And in terms of the format for today, Vipul is going to give himself an introduction as well as a small origin story behind Softools and what it exactly is. And then we'll move sort of under the bonnet of Softools and see a demo of what it does and how it operates. Then we look at how the 100 Days of No Code community can get started in Softools and how best they can move forward in it, and then we'll open up for questions. So hopefully that sounds all right with you guys. But yeah, without further ado, I shall pass over to Vipul to hear more about yourself and Softools.
Yep, thanks Max. Hi everyone. So yeah, as Max said, my name's Vipul. I'm director at Softools. My background isn't really IT. Started out running steel factories, working in steel supply chains for quite a few years. But that led me into working with IBM on some transformation stuff. And joined IBM as an industrial consultant, which got me touching on the edges of IT and technology. And it was while I was at IBM that I met Softools around 8 years ago. And long story short, Softools is a zero code platform. I was going about my consulting work, solving clients' problems, making them more efficient, and found an opportunity to position Softools at Honda in Europe, and that really what was quite obvious to me was that despite being at IBM, big software company, all the resources they've got, Softools was able to deliver a solution in weeks to Honda. And actually, it was a real eye-opening differentiator in terms of not worrying about architecture and databases and UI and all the rest of it. It was just let's solve the client problem quickly and deliver value. My relationship with Softools grew, and I ended up joining Softools a couple of years ago. So that's a bit about me, why I am where I am, and yeah, I think should I share my screen, Max? I'll just I've got a few charts that I can just use to kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
So I'll just do that and get the right thing up. There we go.
Thanks.
Yeah, so Softools, as I've said, it's a zero code web application platform. We've been around in terms of our history. Explain my history. We've been around since 1998. The company was born from process consulting. So our founder, Andy Bruce, was advising companies on process efficiency and so on. And he realized that to scale these processes to enable best practice across a wider business population, codifying the process in an application was the way forwards. They started out building applications to solve process problems, but then as interest in this kind of ramped up, they realized, hang on, wouldn't it be better if clients could actually serve themselves? So let's build a platform that enables non-IT people to configure their process in the way that is best practice to them, and deploy that to their users. And that way, the benefits you get are you get collaboration, you get standardization, you get everyone working the same way, you get visibility, and it's all real time. So probably about 10 years ago, the company evolved into a cloud-based solution. I'll just move this chart on. And the cloud-based solution, partnering with Microsoft, all of our technology is hosted on Azure. We've built up a modern cloud-based web application platform. And really it's around promoting best practice, standardizing work, providing visibility in real time, The application, the capability of the platform at the moment is device agnostic. So we are progressive web based. So our applications will work on laptops, tablets, mobile phones, iOS, Android, doesn't matter. And there's no overhead in terms of development time or cost to service all those devices. The zero code nature just puts our capability within the reach of the masses. We have examples of interns in large companies who've taken our 4-day training course, and they've gone on to develop solutions that the whole company is using. In fact, one notable example, a Canadian software company, an intern based in the UK, developed a project assurance methodology. And when the CEO of this company in Canada was talking to a large customer of theirs, and I'm talking, big global brand in the consumer products industry, they were complimented on the tools that they use to deliver their software. So when this CEO inquired, what is this? He was pointed in the direction of an intern who was promptly flown over to Canada to present his solution and kind of instantly offered a job on graduation and so on and so forth. So it's quite a pertinent example of how technologies like this can help young emerging talent really contribute at the next level within their organizations. In terms of innovation, our platform supports offline working as standard. So in configuring applications, once those apps have been used on a mobile phone or tablet, they can continue to be used offline, and then data will resync when a connection is resumed. And then just in terms of kind of, we are a contemporary platform, so we have an open API library. We have the ability to move information in and out of the platform using APIs, using CSV, imports, exports. We're also starting to work in these IoT Industry 4.0 space. So collecting aggregate data off machines, being able to produce business logic that manages by exception, provides visibility analytics, but also what are the improvement actions or the corrective actions based on what the performance is telling you. And all of that can be configured to meet specific use cases. And lastly, I mentioned Microsoft Azure as being the platform we host on. So we carry the security and scalability that one would expect working with Microsoft. Okay, I'll just very quickly cover these points. Our kind of reason to be. The digital transformation agenda is hot. A lot of people talking about it. A lot of companies trying to foray into it. I think the current situation, we can't kind of escape it around, COVID is forcing a lot of people to work from home. Remote teams have to function remotely. So it's only making the whole digital transformation agenda more and more relevant. So really what we see at Softools, where we see a lot of activity around these four areas. So cloud migration, companies are trying to, move their IT infrastructure into the cloud. It gives them scalability, it reduces costs in some cases, if done well. But actually it's the direction of travel around ensuring systems can interoperate, talk to each other, and support growth. In terms of shadow IT, another area that we address quite frequently is companies will have mission critical processes operating on Excel spreadsheets developed by people, definitely for the right reasons initially because there was a need, but then as those processes scale, they involve more people, they involve in some cases private data, critical information, and those spreadsheets are sitting in email inboxes as attachments. Often there's no control as to whether people can send them outside of the company gate. But also as these processes scale, collaboration becomes a problem, and I think we've all seen these themes emerge. So a platform like Softools is very well suited to Excel replacement. We can very quickly mop up all of those applications and put them in under the governance of IT in terms of security enable the collaboration, enable visibility, and that real-time working. So we see that as a very, an area of low-hanging fruit to attack, really. And then another thing that organizations are keen is around empowering employees, from, aligning, getting best practice embedded, how are projects tracked, even simple things. What is the definition of red, amber, green? Well, if you have good applications that are well defined, input data, process information, move work along, we can also automate the output of work. So a recent example with a global consultancy, they undertook a program to audit dealerships of a global car manufacturer all over the world. 400 question audit. Typically, they would go through that audit in Excel, and each consultant would probably spend a day and a half, 2 days compiling a big report. The audit contains 400 questions. It involves taking photographs. It involves defining improvement actions where there are deviations from standard. Well, on Softools, that report is completely automated. And I think I saw a sample of an audit they did a couple of weeks ago, and it was something like 65 pages. And these guys are going to, their target is to conduct 1,000 audits in the next 2 years for that group. So tremendous productivity savings can be had by digitizing processes well. And then just in terms of emerging technology, I've covered it. Artificial intelligence is a hot topic, a lot of emotion around it, but actually you can't get started unless you have data, structured or unstructured. Having processes on spreadsheet just means you can't evolve towards even exploring these technologies to see what value these capabilities can bring. Okay, quickly move on. This is second to last slide before we actually go into the platform, and this is quite a quick point. So, we've been around for a long time. We've built thousands of applications. We have a demo app store called azusa.on.softools.net. You can actually log into that URL. There is a sign up tab, and you can actually get guest access to it and have a browse. So I encourage you to do that after this call, and you have some time. In that demo app store, we have over 100 off-the-shelf applications covering business processes across the value chain, from supply chain, operations, sales, go-to-market area, finance, program management, etc. All of the tabs you see here. So apps for simple performance appraisal for employees, through to fairly complex project portfolio management applications that track projects, manage risks, actions, dependencies, etc. And so one of the ways we leverage this app store is often customers will ask us if they can use some of these applications as accelerators, so we can copy them into the client's instance, and that gets them a fast start. Okay. And then just in terms of some of the clients we work with, we work globally. We're a UK-based company based in Henley-on-Thames, and we opened an office in Singapore last year, although we've kind of recalled our team when it became clear nobody was having face-to-face meetings because of COVID. But they'll be back out in region, hopefully early next year. Coca-Cola are our flagship client. We work with them all over the world, auditing the manufacturing conditions in bottling plants predominantly, but also in terms of innovation initiative, gathering, appraisal, and tracking. We work with quite a few car companies, so Honda, Nissan. We work with a lot of consultancies, IBM, KPMG. And we also work with smaller organizations. In London, we've got a nice project with Women in Prisons. We're a charity whose mantra is all about working with local police magistrates to identify rehabilitation services for offending women, to try and avoid custodial sentences where it's deemed that would be a negative outcome the individual. So yeah, so that's just a kind of quick view of our clients. Let me switch over to my Chrome browser and go into Softools. Just shut some of these tabs just to make it less confusing. Right. So this is a typical homepage of Softools. You know, this particular example has some buttons here that take you into a video tour of the platform, the user guide. This is the homepage of our demo app store, Azusa. A lot of our clients have a landing page that looks more like a dashboard. Oops, log me out. This is going to take a second to get me back in, I think, because it's going to resync. Oh, there we go. Not sure why that happened. Probably because I've got lots of different sites open. But anyway, so this is often a lot of our live deployments within clients. Actually, the entrance point is a dashboard showing information from different applications. So here you can just see kind of the variety of charts and views that we can surface. So this new tech hopper is really just a bubble chart that categorizes initiatives by, you know, priority and budget. We can configure on the hover over what information about these initiatives is displayed. And then these are all clickable. So if I was to click on this green supplier innovation bubble, it will take me into that initiative, into the form view. I'll just go back to the home page for a moment. On our demo app store, we've kind of organized some of our sweet spot solution suites. Softools is often used in project management, portfolio management. It's used often for innovation management, digital transformation in terms of identification of you know, processes that are manual or in Excel, the candidate processes, and then the whole process of identifying improvement, ranking, and then delivering improvement. We've also got some interesting examples in the market around supplier management. So supplier onboarding, supplier performance management, supplier due diligence, performance management. So some companies are using Softools just to log KPIs by department, by function, or even KPIs linked to improvement programs. So benefit tracking, which kind of has a touch point with our project management and governance. And then another area which I'll go into next is audits and assessments. So you know, we're quite used to seeing people with a clipboard and paper, checklists and so on. So we have quite nice audit applications. I mentioned earlier that Softools is web responsive and, you know, mobile first. So you can see that if I put this on a phone, the application automatically resizes itself. So seeing as that we're in audit scenario, let's have a look at an audit application on a mobile. So this is an audit, quite a visual one. So the application is asking for an audit around personnel, facility and grounds. So imagine this is a sort of a manufacturing facility of some sort. So the personnel audit, you know, the zero code capability will divide the application into sections as per the configuration. So in this scenario, there's some questions. What should, you know, the PPE look like? What's actual? Actually, that's pretty dirty, so it should be a cross. You know, employees are in compliance. Are there, you know, wash hand signs and so on? And, you know, if this was on a mobile phone, you could access the mobile phone's camera. I think because I'm on this Zoom call, my camera is blocked, and so on. So this is just kind of a view of the app. Because our kind of mantra is all business process led, each of these sections can contain help information guiding the user of what to do at each point. And again, all this is very easy to configure. So you can very quickly develop a mobile application with the help and guidance information contained within it, which obviously is critical for driving adoption. I'll just go to a bigger view just so that everyone can see more easily. As you can see, the responsiveness changes the layout. This audit, what are the results? So, the application can be configured to aggregate up the scores from each of the sections. Status can be calculated. We can display this in chart view, and then we can also add actions. So this particular audit here, if we view the actions for this audit, you can see there's 7. So this is a view of this is a different application that's connected, so we can integrate apps within Softools. So wherever there's a deviation, there should be a corresponding improvement action. There are 7 here. This view is showing, it's a bit like, rows on an Excel spreadsheet. But if I want to see this by, let's see it by status, we can group by status. So, these are the red, amber, green actions. If I want to group them by owner. So the reports have, a degree of interactivity. If I want to see more information, there's no data in this particular one. You can expand and see long text fields. So this is something that's tricky to do in an Excel document, but on a Softools report, it's quite simple. And actually, if I was going through this with the person, I was having a conference call with these action owners, we can actually update, just like in Excel, we can update, information. So what's the, let's push this date back. Actually, this one is now done. On hold, or we can update the status as required, right? And that's all happening and saving in the background. If we go into one of these actions, it's just similar to the audit form in the GMP app. It's just fields that are arranged in these grey sections, which we call templates, and all of this can be configured to suit the need of the process that we're working with. So let me just show you now how we build these applications, right? Because that's where it gets interesting. Because I can, we've got hundreds of apps, and I'm not, I could go on and on and on. But I think let's see how this is built. So right now we're in a Chrome tab, and this is the actual, the application, if you like. For those users who've got the right access permissions, there'll be a link in this cog menu here for the App Studio, and that will open in a new tab. Okay, so the App Studio is about to load. There we go. And our applications are built using a sort of an 8-step process. So I'm just going to go back into the app itself. So just to remind you, we're in the Actions Tracker app. Okay, and if I go into App Studio here and I find the Actions Tracker app, which is here, these are the 8 steps on the left-hand side. So we configure, we define our fields, we organize them in templates, we position the templates on the screen in a form. And I'll just go back to the action tracker. This action for this area here is known as a form, and it contains 2 templates, action and reference. So this is a very simple app. I mean, this app, just to give you a sense of effort, this app has probably 12 fields in it. It has 1 form and it has 2 templates. This would take 30 minutes to create in Softools. No more than 30 minutes. And some of our faster app builders probably do it quicker. So the fields are the items you see on the screen. The templates are the grey sections. So we essentially use the templates to arrange the fields, and that's what generates the user interface or the application. The form is just how do we, in which sequence do we want to see these templates? And when we open the form, do we want to see it collapsed or expanded by default? So in this particular app, I can see that reference is set to be collapsed. And if you click on it, it will expand, whereas action is set to be expanded by default. And then we define our reports. Now the reports are the list of, the collection of records. Okay, so this is where you have more, all of the records collected. So this particular report, the actions list, has, we define what columns we want to see. We also define when this report is viewed on a mobile phone, we also define which columns drop out first. because there's a logic to that. You know, from a user journey, if I'm looking at this on a mobile, I might want to see the action, and I want to see the status and the owner. And it's okay if the date drops out, and actually you can still use, you know, you can set it to be scrollable, but really you want to see everything in one screen. And then we have lots of other types of reports, which are, you know, tables, charts, open actions by site, pie chart, and so on and so forth. So the reports area is where you define all of these list reports, tables, or charts. And then we have the ability to define workflow. So workflow is really, there is a trigger. So when you save a record, or when you know, if a status of an action goes red or becomes overdue, then do something. Either, you know, make the record read only. If it's an assessment and you're submitting it, you might want to make the data read only so that it's assessed in a true form. There's no risk of data being changed. Or send an email notification to somebody to you know, that this action has turned red, or this action is overdue, so on and so forth. So that's where, so we use workflow to define those kind of events. And the integrate is this concept of integrating Softools apps. And just to speak about this a little further, this action that we're looking at, these actions, these 7 actions belong to this one particular demo audit, which is you know, which was done on the 1st of May in 2020, and it's called GMP demo. Okay, and it has these 7 actions. I think I moved to a different. I moved the record along. Let me just go to that one. Just click on it. It doesn't matter which one. This one's got 1 action. That's fine. So, so essentially, what the integration is doing is it's saying, when I do an audit, I want to log actions, but I want to automatically connect the actions that belong to my parent audit. So we have parent-child applications that creates a nice lens, because if I do 50 audits, people might be assigned actions from 20 of those audits. But I don't want to go through 20 audits to find my work. I want to go into the action tracker application in its own right. Let's do that. So I'm, at the moment, just as a reminder, I'm in the application. I'm not in App Studio. So here there are 24 actions, and these will come from different audits, right? But actually, what I'm interested in is there are 2 that are assigned to me. Now, these could come from different audits, and that's fine. And in fact, we've got some clients where you've got actions generating from audits, from assessments, from projects, but it doesn't matter, because we set the app up to say, where did this get generated from? And it creates that link. And so you can progress work. And a, you know, audit owner or a project manager can see what actions are under my project or under my audit. And an action owner can see, show me all the actions assigned to me regardless of where they come from. And that's the power of this integration. So let me just show you, we're in this Actions Tracker app. So let me open up the Actions Tracker record. So what you'll see in this, I'll just give you a view of how these fields are configured. So first of all, just for ease, when you have access to our App Studio, in the app itself, this little eye will pop up. Normal users wouldn't see this, only people with the right permission to build, you know, to be able to modify applications. But it gives you on the screen the field identifier, action description short. Now it's got a different name, but this is what it's known as in the database, if you like. So if I click on the fields, you'll see there are 26 fields. Action description short is here, and it's a text field. Okay, and you'll see that these are the fields. There's long text field, there's numeric fields, there's an image action button. So this image action button, let's click on this. Effectively, we set the size of it, full, large, medium, small. We're saying that button should open a URL, and it should take us into the owner actions. So actually, that button on the screen is this arrow over here. So this is how we create this arrow using zero code. We upload this image, and it could be an image of anything, and we tell it what it does, and we position it on the screen. Okay. I'll just come back to the global field list. we've got selection fields. So the action type is over here. Purchasing, risk, action, insight, decision. So if I go to action type, where are we there? We just call this a selection field. And you can see that there's a large range of fields. So range, for example, you'd say this is a range field of between 0 and 5. It will automatically put a slider that the user can select from 0 to 5 or 0 to 100, however you define it. So we have some global select lists that have been defined. So the one grade type, which is your risk, your action, risk, action, insight, decision list. And here we put the options. If I want to add a new option, I can just add a new one as I need to. I'll just cancel that. We've even got the ability to, we've got the facility to upload these using CSV files. So if you have huge selection lists, you don't have to sit there and type them all out. You can, fire them up through Excel, which is great when we're doing spreadsheet replacement, because all the data is sitting somewhere. So you want to be able to quickly build your application rather than just keying things in. And so that's, and we could make this a required field. We can make it read only, and so on and so forth. So that's fields. Once I've defined all my fields, I go into templates. Now I told you there were 2 templates, action and reference. Let's have a look at action. So the first, there's some help information here. So we've defined what does green, amber, red, blue, black mean. So there's no ambiguity. Let's go into this action template. So we simply give it a name. This is where we put the help information. Whoops, managed to drag that text. And we've got an icon. So that icon there, we've uploaded and selected. And that's what this little, this hand with the spanner is. Go into Basic Builder. And here you see there are 6 rows. And in each row, we've defined how many fields we want to lay out on the screen. So the first row is four columns: action description, short, action owner, action type, action owner, email. I think we can see where we're going here. So you see, let's suppress the help information. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, 4 fields. The second row has got 1, which is a long text field, as with the third. Then you've got status is on the 4th row. Next steps is on the 5th row, and the image action button, which is taking us to our back up to our parent audit, is on the 6th row. So just by defining these, and if I wanted to add a 7th row, you just put the field. Now, if I was to save this and refresh the app, you would end up with, you would see this field on the 7th row. And it's as simple as that. So in app development, UI design is often a step that carries an overhead of skill and time and effort and cost. And we take that away with Softools. So that's how we set up this action template. I'm just going to speed up a little bit because I think it all gets quite intuitive. If I go into the form action, you'll see that in this form, we've got the form action. We've got 2 templates. The first one is action. The second one is reference. We've got the ability to build logic that says certain people shouldn't see certain forms. So you could have a scenario of a project where internal people would see cost information, but external users wouldn't. So we can use these form rules to be able to control what information people see. It just adds more configuration, but it's still all 0 code. And then if I go to the reports, I'll just go into this list report. Let me just go into it in the application. So here you can see we've defined the column site, action owner, status, type, date open, date closed, etc. So in this actions list, it's a list report, and you can see how we just define, which fields, the display order, and the column priority. The column priority determines as the screen gets less wide, if you move from a laptop to a tablet to a mobile, based on the real estate available, which fields should drop out first, or which fields should stay as long as there's space. And And then the detailed fields are the items that can appear when you expand each row. And that's it. So, and that's the minimum you need to do to deploy an application. Once you've done all of that, we can define which users or teams of users can see the application, which groups can have read-only access, which groups can have edit access, and which groups of people can actually modify, configure the application. And so, we have instances with clients where there might be 50 applications on the platform, on the client's instance, but individual users would just see the 3 or 5 that are relevant to them. So it becomes quite intuitive and clean in terms of their experience. So I'll pause there. Any questions?
Thanks for that. That was really great. And excited to hear some questions, because I feel like I know Mark and Lawrence have got backgrounds that maybe lend themselves to this application, and I'd just be interested in questions you have. So feel free to fire away.
I'll go first if that's all right, Lawrence. But I'm very interested in doing something with this before. I've built an app, as a prototype for small businesses that subcontractors within housing construction. That's part of what I do, and I'm looking to sort of develop a fully working, scalable app based on that. And it's something that I'd like to have where you've got an unlimited number of users can sign up, on sort of demand. But this sort of seems maybe it's more of an internal tool, or am I sort of missing something? Where you could have it as a standalone feature with multiple users, with their own users, if you like.
So it can be either. I'll be honest with you, our heritage is business to business. It tends to be intercompany. However, for instance, in fact, I was on LinkedIn earlier getting annoyed because when COVID happened, we obviously with the requirement for pubs to record contact information of customers, we very quickly created an application that any pub could sign up to. It's one instance, but because of our security, we can configure it to say, look, your user ID can only see information that you've put in. So actually, one application on one instance could be used by every pub in this country, and they would only see the customers that are coming through their door. Our backend would, based on their user ID, we'd automatically know which pub it is. So if the government said, if we were told, the White Hart in Twickenham requires the last 21 days of data, it would be very easy to just, they could supply it themselves. They just select all of the records, and it goes into a CSV file, and they can supply it to the NHS. So we can do it. We are starting to work with some individuals, more startup orientated. There's one project that's being marketed out in the US as a business to consumer application. So it is possible. And actually, it serves as quite an interesting stepping stone, because for me, in that kind of scenario, you could create your best practice. Here's some applications in the construction space for subcontractors, right? It could be, time recording. It could be, raw material ordering. I don't know, whatever it might be, whatever your sweet spot is, safety assessments, right? Whatever it could be. But then some of your clients say, well, I like that, but I want to do it slightly differently, or I want to do a bit more. And then what you can do is you can say, well, okay, well, that's a different level. Let's create your own version. Let's customize it and elevate the value. And so there's actually a path to progress, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, just going back to your pub analogy then, where a pub would have a sign-on, could other employees of that pub have their own sign-on with user permissions?
Yes. So there is an element of setting up. So if every pub had its own team, right? So just in this example, we'd set up teams for each pub. So each pub would be a team, and then users are assigned to the team. And because they're assigned to the team, once they log in, they can only see that segment of information, right? And that's something that's a standard way of working for us.
Yeah, that's the sort of where I'm looking for. A pub would have a single account, so one person would be paying the bill to access the service, and then they would be able to give other employees access to the through their subscription, but they have permissions. So where you've already touched on that, so there's different levels of access to. So some people would be able to see money information, other people wouldn't. So it'd be a sort of scale sort of thing like that. And with the reports, what about being able to produce an invoice type of report, something that would be sort of a time-based, so amount of work done in a period of time would be cumulative and then invoiced at a period end or something like that. Is that a feasible thing?
Yeah, we have a demo app for invoicing. So this is a simple invoice app. So it's a good question actually, because it's actually one part of the platform I didn't touch on in the demo. So that's quite fortuitous. So we have an export function. So if I export this invoice, I can export it as Excel data. And for that, I can export all the invoices or a selection of. But actually, I can export a Word document or a PDF of the same. And in this demo app, we've defined an invoice. So we've configured what an invoice should look like. So let me just, you can see it's just running. A little notification there. So it's just going. So just to hurry it along, just to stop having to wait for the notification. Just refresh the screen. There we go. So it's downloaded. So that you can see it's 5:47 September 9th. This is live and true. I just download that and the browser will throw out a Word document. And you see here a highly formatted document that is an invoice that is pulling data from that record. And that's all configuration, the look and feel of that is entirely up to you, how you want it to look.
So if the pub uploaded their own CSV of a particular activity they were doing or an event or something, and that event was going on over several months, you could say certain parts of that were complete at some time and then put that in an invoice, and then as it went on, the remainder could be put into a subsequent invoice, and sort of as the project comes to a completion, and they'd all be in all that information.
Yeah, so Softools, we run our business on Softools. We don't use SAP or Salesforce. So actually, when we sign business with a client, there'll be a licensing component, there'll be maybe an app delivery component or an app training component. There might be some app support components. There might be build a solution for us. There's a kickoff payment. There's a payment on final implementation milestone payment. So we have a parent app that is the order, and then we have a child app that's invoice, and we can add as many invoice entries as we need to, and we put in a target invoice date. So I've got a nice grid that says I'm due to collect these invoices next month, and I'll look at them with my team and say which one of these is dependent on someone actually doing something. Right, well, we better make sure we're on time, otherwise we need to slip the month. So that's how we don't forget to charge clients. Same with our license renewals. We just enter, so we have like the multi-year license deals with some of our clients. So we just set it up and say, okay, in October, there's a renewal of 100 licenses, and that's how we operate in Softools. And I think we've been around for so long. A lot of these kind of use cases, we have examples out there. So we have Accelerator Apps, because there isn't IP in an invoice, right? There's no intellectual property around, who's being charged, how much are they being charged, what's the payment terms. That's just standard stuff. And so a lot of these apps can quickly accelerate the process of developing them.
Oh, I love you. I'll just ask one question and I'll shut up. What about the cost then? Obviously, there's a fairly sizable sum to set up it. How does that work? What will be the process of using the service in terms of
So our costs are broken down into three core components. The first component is platform setup. So we are cloud-based, but every client would have their own instance of Softools. Now that instance of Softools could be to collaborate with people within your company, outside of your company, for a group. So in your example of a construction subcontractors app, you'd have one instance and all your customers would use that instance, and you'd use the security to segregate them. But that instance would have a setup cost, and our price for that is £9,000 to set up the platform. That's a one-off fee. For that fee, we get you up and running. We show you how to do this, the site admin in terms of onboarding users, keeping the security running as you need it to. We also copy up to 5 of our Accelerator apps onto your site. And that's kind of our, that's the start point. We then have a user fee. So our normal standard way of looking at licensing is on a per user per month basis. And that's £30 per user per month. But we recognize that we have a lot of use cases that just don't lend themselves to that. So Capita, for example, they onboard suppliers. They do supplier due diligence quite extensively around modern slavery and financial crime and all these kind of things that suppliers fill in. But those suppliers come onto the platform once, and then once they're finished, they're finished. And I think after 12 months, they come on again they'll revisit to do an update. But for there, we've come up with a transaction-based model that says, every supplier you onboard, the license is X. For a large hotel chain, each hotel needs to use the app, but they don't know who the user is. They said it could be one of 8 people. So a bit like your pub, the pub example. So for there, we just charge the license per hotel because we recognize that the transaction is just one person doing some work on a weekly basis, filling in data, but it could be 8 people that it gets spread across. But that so the short story is, once you set your platform up and you've got, say, 20 users, then you're talking around sort of 15K in the first year to have this capability. And then obviously the setup fees are one-off fees. So then after that, it's just licenses. The third component is kind of open-ended. Some clients will come to us and say, here's our solution. Here's a full functional requirement. Go build it for us. So we'll look at that and say, okay, that's 3 weeks work or 4 weeks work or 3 months work, whatever. And we just charge this, for professional services, building the apps. And then others will say, actually, we don't want you to do that. We want to train our own people. But it's like Excel. If you learn Excel and say, go build a sales forecasting Excel sheet, someone who's just learned Excel probably won't be able to do a great job. So you need a bit of hand-holding. So we have an app support contract. So people who take on app builder training, rather than charging a sort of more expensive app builder license fee, we have this idea of a support contract where you buy our time, but you prepay it. So you might buy 12 hours, you might buy 50 hours, you might buy 120 hours, depending on the number of apps you're looking to build, the number of people, and so on. And then when we provide support and guidance, which could be you've built the app, but you can't get the workflow to work, or you can't get certain things that you want to get done quickly, or you just don't have time, we can work with you. And that might be, we do 4 hours work. So we just take 4 hours off the capacity you've bought. So typically the entry cost of Softools in year 1 is between sort of 15 and 25K. And then it can scale to much greater heights depending on how widely adopted and used it is. But in terms of commercials, the best way forward is to have the conversation about what it is you're trying to achieve. So in your example, we work through partners quite heavily because you're closer to the industries, you're closer to the customer, you're closer to the pain points, and you're closer to the demand. We'll often joint venture where we'll say, okay, we'll support you to build the solution. Let's get it out there. And actually, as it's taken up, we can cover those costs on a revenue recognition basis. So it's more of a partnering model.
Right, lovely, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's something I'd like to talk to you about at some point separately. But yeah, I think you've answered my questions there, and I'll free up some time for Lawrence or Max, or
It's
James.
an agile platform, and we're an agile company.
Lovely. All right, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, Matt, for the great questions. Lawrence, yeah, conscious, yeah, if you've got any questions, fire away.
Hi, Vipul.
Hi, Lawrence, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for your presentation. As you know, I deal with kind of risks in public life, and these are kind of hazards to the general public. Can be anything from an adventure playground to a historic monument, risk assessing things like that. So obviously, Softools does a whole range of quite technical, quantitative risk assessments. But how geared up are you towards dealing with risks of that kind, which are very qualitative in nature? You know, you can't do a Monte Carlo analysis of a water park, for example. It has to be kind of descriptive and qualitative. I mean, you've taken us through an example already, which kind of illuminates how, you know, the answer to that already. But I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. And a second thing I was wondering is, I often encounter a common problem I encounter in public risk, the world of public risk, is that people often are a bit unclear about their responsibilities, and they feel they can often try and delegate responsibility for managing a hazard to a third party. They think they can, you know, offload that responsibility onto someone in the distance to do a risk assessment, and that will cover them. So how do you deal with this potential danger that an app could falsely lead a duty holder or risk manager to think that the app kind of covers everything and thinks of everything for them, and maybe they might switch off as a result and think they're, you know, completely covered and don't need to kind of think about it themselves? How do you kind of deal with that possibility?
I think there's there's two things there. So if I can, I'll try to summarize and recap and address both.
Yeah.
The first one is kind of, how do you deal with more qualitative scenarios in terms of an app? So in your example of risk, you know, I'll just go back to the origins of Softools. It was all around process and best practice. So actually the app doesn't necessarily need to care about what the people enter necessarily, but what the app does need to do is guide people through the right thought process. So in your scenario of somebody doing a risk assessment at a water park or a monument, actually it's what questions are you asking for? So like I showed you with that GMP audit, there was a photograph of what good looks like. So an application could be made very easily that shows the user, and maybe it's simple. It's kind of, okay, there's 5 things that are really fundamental. So you surface up 5 views of best practice. And then you ask questions in the application. You can author the questions that you can work with, you know, behavioral scientists and so on around, okay, what questions are going to make people really think that I should care about this risk? And it might just be simple that they have to, you know, check boxes that says, look, you know, I've read this and I believe on a scale of 1 to 5, we're at level 2. So it is qualitative, right? But you're guiding people through the process. Now, the application can carry metrics that says, you know, the assessor, have they completed all of these? Have they ticked each box? Now, we can be clever in our configuration to make sure someone's read something, because you could actually say, you know, in order to tick this box and validate you've read it, please write this or whatever. You know, you can get, you know, how far do you want to go down the police state, but it's possible because it's zero code. It's the process you want to employ, right? But in my mind, in my history, and, you know, from my steel industry days, I understand that the behavioral aspects in safety are critical. You know, it can be, you know, adherence to process. If you can get people to adhere to a process, normally they don't wake up to do a bad job. You just need to get them to follow that process. So that's one of the strengths of Softools. You can use the zero code capability to really take people through that process. And there's other, attainment type questionnaires where they ask the same question 5 times in different ways. And then the scores actually tell you, hang on, this person's just randomly answering these. Or so, you could even ask people to look at the same risk in 5 angles and then come up with analytics that look at their response. There's all sorts of things you can do, but actually that's the science of the subject matter expert. It's not the constraint of the application of the platform's capability, right? So that's the beauty. We can support lots of those ideas, techniques, and the beauty is you can try it and you can refine it and improve it. And where you've gone overkill, you can strip it back, and where there's not enough, you can layer on more. So that's the first point. The second point, which you'll need to remind me the summary of the question because I've been too busy talking.
No, the question was very long and rambling and confused, but it was basically, is there a danger that an app could falsely lead a duty holder or risk manager to think that it covers everything and it absolves them of all personal responsibility, and maybe they switch?
Yeah. I think the point, we talk a lot in Softools about the so what. And actually, in the example I showed you of the audit, there was an action tracker. The so what in anything is, so what you're going to do about what you found. So in a way, it's back to how you orchestrate the process. Have you got all of the stakeholders involved in it, either as people conducting assessment or reviewing and commenting, but then having the actions assigned to the right owners? It's people, process, tools. This is the tool. It can codify your process. But then there's that people part, and actually the stats around adherence. So, typically each assessment results in 6 actions. Our completion rate is shocking. So you can go to your stakeholders and say, what's the point of this? Because all of the actions identified, they're all overdue. They're never being closed out. So actually we should give up. And if you're serious about managing risk, you should put some emphasis on this. And it's a different industry, but in terms of project governance, one client of ours was so keen to get the process to work. They needed all their project managers to have completed their reporting by midday on a Friday. Then an automated email could genuinely, automate the report, send it to stakeholders and so on. So he said, fine, if you're late more than 3 times in a year, you lose your bonus. So it's not, no app, not Softools, no app can drive that kind of adherence. It's got to be that combination of, it's that classic change management, dilemma of how do you can use tools to help, but you do need to get your process relevant and you need to get your people bought in.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Any more questions, Lawrence, or is that it for you?
None from my side. That's great, thanks.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool. And Jamie, do you have any questions, or is Vipul?
No, I'm all good. I thought that was well explained. Thank you.
Awesome. No worries. Great. Well, Vipul, it'd be great if you could just sort of tell the guys of next steps if they wanted to get involved.
Yeah, sure. So we have a Softools app for learning Softools that can be signed up to. So we if you're interested in learning how to create Softools apps, I'd be very happy to provide 100 Days of No Code users with a free access code. So normally we charge a small amount to do our training just because of the overheads of running the program. But I was talking to Max and we're quite keen to engage this community. So really to get an overview and to build a basic app, you could probably achieve it in 5 hours. You just have to cover the first 2 modules of the training. And you can then go deeper into the advanced features. And that's kind of we've seen people achieve it in sort of between 15 and 20 hours. So it's not huge overhead. But that training would enable you to build all the applications that I demoed. You would have the skills to get that far. And in return for doing the training, we would provide digital certification. So it is a skill that you'd acquire. It's a qualification. Obviously, Softools aren't the biggest company in the world, but it is, is a recognised qualification in Softools land. And yeah, you'd be very welcome to join the cohort. Our website, softools.net/ABC. There's a sign up tab in there. And Max, what I'll do is I'll send a promotion code that can be used to eradicate the fee.
Awesome.
For those that are interested. Another ask would be, please do subscribe to our newsletter. We probably send 10 a year out, not quite once a month, but we just, we broadcast things around what we're doing with clients, use cases, some of our innovation, and so on. So it'd be great to keep in touch with you that way. And I'm always open for conversations. So Mark, if you want to have a discussion about your ideas, then yeah, love to explore.
Yes, please. Where can I contact you at Vipul?
So my email address is vipul.lakani@softools.net.
I can send it over as well if that's okay, Vipul.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, I don't have.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd definitely
shouldn't I?
love to take a bit of your time and have a chat through how we might be able to progress something together. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Cool. I just wondered, Vipul, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, I think thanks for your time. Thanks, Max, for arranging this. I think we've talked about. It's been great just to talk about Softools. We're very passionate about what we do. Very proud about what we do. We've shown you some applications. We've shown you how those applications are built. I think we've had a great discussion.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree. It's been really, really interesting, and yeah, looking forward to seeing hopefully a couple of us in the platform and using it. But yeah, thanks, Vipul, for your time. Really enjoyed learning more about Softools, and yeah, speak soon. Well, thanks everyone as well for dropping by, and hopefully see you at next week's one. But yeah, let's wrap up there, and have a good rest of your weeks, guys.
Cheers all.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Appreciate the discussion.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye.